Today we're going to talk about the Geolocation API and how it's used, how it works, and just some general facts about the API itself and why it's useful in today's society. So first let's talk about what is it exactly. The definition of a Geolocation API is a communication interface between a client device or application client side and an application or server side that identifies and returns information about the client's geographical location. That means information is sent to a server and then it's brought back, and then based on the information that's brought back, a user's geographical location can be identified. And you see this commonly with GPS, like Google Maps, for example, uses Geolocation API. And most services use network routing addresses or the internal GPS devices to determine a user's locations. So usually it will give you the output parameters, which is like details like what's the currency at the location. If you're in Spain, they use dineros, or if you're in Europe, then of course they're going to use euros. What time zone are you in? Are you Eastern Standard Time? Are you Pacific? Are you Central? Etc. Or even if the country is part of the European Union. And all this information can be identified through the Geolocation API as it gathers this information and reports it back to the user. So first, a location request is sent to a geolocation IP from a client's device, which that can be a tablet, it can be a computer, it can be a mobile device, cell phones. And then the following input parameters are provided from the device, which is the IP address, the MAC address, the RFID, GPS coordinates, cell tower ID, or Wi-Fi position. The API then works to queries a location information server, which replies to the API with multiple location properties, and this includes an accurate information as it is transferred over. And it's important that it's accurate as it's transferred over, because if it isn't accurate, then the Geolocation API itself is going to have trouble displaying the correct information. And then the API will return this information to the client's device. Say it's your cell phone, and you're trying to find out, well, how to get to Pizza Hut. So then you query, and then the API looks for this information, and then it returns it to your device, and it reports that, hey, Pizza Hut is located on Central Boulevard at such and such address. Now, the important thing to realize about this API itself, it does not store data. And no, a lot of people are hesitant about when they see Google would like to know your location. Well, the API itself does not store your data, and it has to obtain it from a source. So you're more likely to be safer from the API. You don't have to worry about it stealing your privacy or anything like that, because it has to obtain it from a source, which is the server. And a user can request this location data about an organization or place simply by entering a name. So basically how it works, like I say, I enter Pizza Hut. It looks through the server of all its information that it has on file. It goes like, okay, Pizza Hut, I have 15 different Pizza Huts. Okay, let's see where their location is. Let's see the closest one. Okay, the closest one is East Main Street. So therefore, it's going to display East Main Street Pizza Hut, for example. So now, what does it provide to the client? As I said before, it provides the IP address and some IPS details. This is detail about whether the IP is a proxy address or not. And as you can see in this little map, it also provides details about the location. As you can see by this little marker, it says Museum of Science and Industry. So this little marker gives you information as well as the exact location, street address, and everything involved. So it can also provide, the API can provide the mobile carrier device, the area code, and network code. Now you can see this more on like Facebook applications. I know Facebook is like find a friend, and you can find out where they are or what areas they're near. And that was a major concern, especially with people using Facebook to track other people. And we're like, hey, so-and-so's over at Starbucks. Oh, I know where that Starbucks is. I'm going to go over there. It's kind of a big issue, especially if your profile is public and everybody can have access to that. So threats, basically whether the IP address has been known as a source of malicious activities. It can report that. It's like, hey, such and such address is a source of all these malicious activities. You should be careful. And then it can provide the local data, which is the time zone, as I said before, locations in the areas like stores, public places, or maybe public service options, as well as what language is used in the area and the currency. As I said before, your data is perfectly safe. The API does not store this data and it cannot be compromised through the API itself. Without the server, it basically cannot work. So the API is basically just, if you want to think of it like the gopher. It doesn't have it, it needs to go get it. And websites must ask for permission to use a user's location, and the user has the right to deny this. So every time it asks for your locations, you do not have to click yes, you have a right to say no. And then once you deny any apps or websites, they have no way of accessing your location via the API unless you allow it. If you don't allow it to, then of course it's not going to take your information. A lot of people were worried about the API being hacked, but even if it's hacked, you're not going to get anything off of it because it does not store this information. It just gets the information, and once it's done with it, it goes away. It does not keep it on file. And that is all for my presentation. Hopefully you understand a little bit of a basic general knowledge about API and what the geolocation API is and how important it is in society, especially when we're looking for places to eat, or we're trying to find our way, or we're trying to just navigate in our daily lives.